What is data? Raw facts and figures. Which of the following best defines information? That is organized and meaningful data. Knowledge is obtained by processing and analyzing information. Wisdom can best be described as experience-based judgment. The correct order in the DIKW hierarchy is data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. What transforms data into information? That is context and meaning, which is not a characteristic of data, that is structure. Which process converts information into knowledge, that is learning and experience. Wisdom includes ethics, judgment, and experience. An example of data is a database of names. Information becomes knowledge when it is applied or used. DIKW is a framework used in information science and management. Data is to inform as stone is to sculpture. The application of knowledge for decision making leads to wisdom. Which of these is the most abstract form? Wisdom. Which level of DIKW is most concerned with decision making? That is wisdom. Patterns and relationships emerge at the level of knowledge. Who benefits most from the DIKW hierarchy? Decision makers and analysts. In DIKW, metadata is most closely related to information. Informed decisions requires information and knowledge. The DIKW hierarchy helps in understanding the flow from raw facts to wise decisions. Metadata is data about data. Tacit knowledge is known but difficult to articulate. Explicit knowledge is codified and transferable. Information becomes knowledge when it is understood and internalized. The main difference between data and information is processed and contextualized data. An example of knowledge is the ability to recommend a book based on readers' interest. The DIKW pyramid is typically represented vertically from data to wisdom. Which of the following is essential for turning knowledge into wisdom? That is ethical reasoning and experience. Which process turns data into actionable insights? That is interpretation and analysis. Which of the following is an example of tacit knowledge? That is institution gained through years of experience. Information overload occurs when an individual is exposed to excessive data and information. Wisdom enables a person to make sound and ethical decisions. A knowledge base is primarily used to help users find solutions using existing knowledge. Which of the following is least likely to be stored in a database? That is wisdom. Knowledge management involves sharing and organizing knowledge efficiently. A decision support system uses knowledge and rules to assist decision. Information literacy means understanding how to find, evaluate, and use of information. Which level of DIKW helps in interpreting patterns and trends? That is knowledge. Data mining refers to searching large data sets to identify patterns. In the DIKW model, wisdom is often seen as the ethical application of the knowledge. Data becomes useful when it is given context and meaning. Knowledge workers are employees who handle and analyze information to generate knowledge. Wisdom differs from knowledge by including judgment and ethical use. Which of the following will most likely be stored in a data warehouse? That is customer transaction records. A data lake is used to store both structured and unstructured data. Human intuition and ethics are key parts of the wisdom. The transition from knowledge to wisdom often involves practice and reflection. What is the main source of wisdom? That is experience and ethical judgment. The purpose of data visualization is to present data in a clear and understandable format. What is a key feature of structured data? That it follows a predefined data model. A key source of unstructured data is social media post. Which of the following supports knowledge sharing in an organization? That is knowledge management system. A data dashboard is primarily used to visually track key metrics. Which element is most closely associated with strategic decision making? That is wisdom. Which tool is commonly used in knowledge discovery? Data mining software. Knowledge transfer is essential for organizational learning. A knowledge map helps in identifying knowledge sources and flows. Which is an example of converting tacit knowledge to explicit knowledge? That is writing a training manual. Which level in DIKW focus on knowing why? That is wisdom. In business intelligence, what is the role of dashboards? Present key performance indicators. Which characteristic defines wisdom more than other DIKW levels? Judgment. In the healthcare sector, patient records primarily represent information. Clinical guidelines derived from patient data represent knowledge. When doctors apply medical knowledge to diagnose and treat, they are using wisdom. A wise leader is known for the making sound decisions based on the experience. Wisdom often involves the ability to balance competing values and perspectives. The biggest challenge in knowledge management is encouraging knowledge sharing. Collective wisdom is generated through group collaboration and decision making. Which of these is not a part of the DIKW model? That is intelligence. Decision trees are used to represent conditional knowledge. The term big data implies data that is massive in volume, velocity, and variety. Semantic analysis is primarily associated with the textual meaning extraction. A KPI is an example of measurable information. Which of the following technology enables knowledge creation and sharing? That is knowledge portals. Knowledge repositories store valuable insights and documented knowledge. What is the main goal of DIKW in an organization? That is ensure ethical and wise use of information. Wisdom is education helps develop ethical and critical thinking. Knowledge-based system use rules and logic. One main drawback of having too much data is data saturation and decision fatigue. Knowledge what is related to information. Knowledge how refers to knowing how refers to knowledge. Knowing why is a hallmark of wisdom. Knowledge conversation is also known as knowledge transformation. The process of filtering useful knowledge from vast data is called knowledge discovery. Search engines help in moving from data to information. Data literacy involves understanding, interpreting, and using data efficiently. Organizational memory refers to collective knowledge stored over time. Knowledge audit checks for the knowledge gaps and uses. A key method for transferring knowledge is through storytelling. Which DIKW level contains the most value but it's hardest to quantity? Wisdom. What does DIKW help visualize? That is the flow from data to action and insight. The practice of organizational learning ensures continuous improvement using past knowledge. KM tools are used for the managing knowledge in organization. A practical application of wisdom is ethical leadership. Decision making is most influenced by the depth of the wisdom. Knowledge creation occurs through active interaction and reflection. Intellectual capital includes knowledge, skill, and experience of the employees. A primary characteristic of wisdom is informed judgment. The ultimate goal of DIKW is enhance ethical and informed decision making.